Welcome everyone to Tales of the Trenches, Part 2. Pleased to welcome back Anthony Behar from SEPA USA, Johnny Angelillo from UPI, and freelancer from Washington, D.C., Oliver Contreras, who contributes to SEPA, the New York Times, Bloomberg, Washington Post, among others. Unfortunately, Angie Weiss is on assignment today in Pennsylvania, working on some election stories, so she won't be able to join us today. So with that, I'd like to just kick off the discussion. Again, welcome back, Oliver, Johnny, and Tony. One question I did want to ask at the end of our last section, we sort of ran out of time, was what do you think are the biggest challenges or biggest challenge you faced this year compared to last year? And Oliver, I'll go left to right, and you're left to right on my screen. So Oliver, why don't you kick us off?
Well, hello, everyone. Hi, Jonathan. Well, I think the challenges were pretty much everything in terms of safety. I'm still like in a position where I have to wear an N95 at the White House. You never know who's gonna be the next person to get sick, and it could be someone from the White House, or it could be someone, another member of the press as well. I mean, that's one of the challenges that just started when the pandemic started here. The other one, it was like as a freelance. The first couple of months, of course, like not just me, like all the freelancers here in Washington, D.C., we were all like uncertain about what was going to happen and how long this was going to last. Because as a freelancer, you only get paid for what you do. And so we spend like a lot of months and that without working much, and there are some photographers that actually I haven't seen since the pandemic started, and we're trying to reach out to them and trying to help them somehow.
Yeah, I know, Oliver, with just that, I know that prior to the pandemic, probably the week before, you were spending 4 to 5 days at the White House, and then once the pandemic hit, you were actually forbidden to go to the White House to do your job, and that you could only go on your specific pool day. And it was very, very limited, the access, whereas just really a few days before, you could come and go as you please. And I know that you spent a good part of the week at the White House from early in the morning to late in the evening. And the pandemic simply prevented you from doing that. The other thing I think is different, and maybe Johnny and Tony can jump in, is that a lot of your job, what you do is indoors. The White House, different buildings, Capitol, et cetera, where Johnny and Tony working a lot outdoors, even with events, sports, red carpet, things like that, they're outdoors. Yours became pretty dangerous, or, the concerns. And you were also generally working very tight, confined spaces, right? So with a lot of people generally, right? So
yeah, and
I can imagine that.
I have a story. I'm sorry, Jonathan. I have a story that actually happened 3 times this year. Because we all work together. There are 7 photographers allowed to be part of the pool at the White House, and we all sit right next to each other. In the morning, we get tested. It happened 3 times that one of my colleagues got positive, and then we realized it was a false positive. But when that happened, they have to send everybody home, like all the photographers, because we were all together. So they have to send everybody home. We have to call someone else, another photographer who can cover our shift. And that photographer, like every time we saw them entering the White House, with like their faces, like, I don't want to be here. It's like, why you're sending me here?
Because it's one more person that potentially could be infected and one less person to call on. And I also know, and then we'll jump over to Tony, to Johnny and Tony, also that there were times when you were at the White House, and because of that, you were not allowed to go over to the Capitol, for example, or other places, because there might have been some positive cases in the White House press corps, and then you were prevented then from, even though you didn't test positive, you had other issues. Well, you had been at the White House last week, or et cetera, and then over at the Capitol, you couldn't go over there to do that job. So it became very tricky, right? You have to really be very, very careful amongst all the other challenges of the job. Hey, Johnny, maybe you want to jump in and just kind of take off from where we left with Oliver. Like, what do you think were the biggest challenges this year compared to last year? I know one thing was traffic was not an issue this year, where traffic is usually an issue in New York. That's one thing that wasn't an issue for you guys. But what do you think? What do you think were some of the challenges you faced this year, or the last few months compared to previous?
The biggest thing for me was like a lack of a schedule, Jonathan. I mean, we usually work nights, and then sporting events were in the days. And I always, with a couple of exceptions, I always knew about 3 or 4 days a week exactly what I was doing. And this was the complete opposite. It would be 3 or 4 days. I had no idea how the day was going to start or what I was going to cover. So, that was hurt. It was bad for my family. It was bad for a lot of things. I learned to adapt to it. I learned to adapt to working, days and stuff. But that was a big challenge that I just now, I mean, over the past maybe month or two, that I feel comfortable leaving with my cameras, at 8:30 in the morning, and not truly having a plan and just developing the plan throughout the course of the day, because there is no event.
Right.
Unlike in DC, like Oliver was saying, there was a couple of weeks where I really felt that I was in danger from catching the virus. And it was only at the period where we were very close to the hospitals that I felt like the virus was near me, even though I had, sometimes gloves and all the time a mask. But for those first months, I felt like almost everything I did was outside, and I felt, like not 100% safe. I was cautious, but I really felt like if I stayed, away from people, and I was photographing an event outside, I was pretty safe. I also developed this technique of holding my breath as I walked by people. I don't know if that helped or not, but every time I would kind of like have to walk by people, I would just like not breathe. I don't know. Fortunately, I never caught the virus. I'm not saying that had anything to do with it. But
no, I just know personally, personally, you're walking by somebody, and even if they're wearing a mask and they cough or they sneeze, and you think to yourself, oh, that's it. Like that was it.
I would never think anything. I would just stop breathing, and I would back away until I thought like I was away from any like mist or anything like that. And then as the knowledge became better on it, I just felt, more confident that what I was doing, not going to every mayor or governor press conference, I just felt that I was in a good position, not to catch it, isolating in the way I was isolating. Jonathan, the first week or two, some things that I photographed, like the empty streets, I shot from the passenger seat or the driver's seat of my car.
Right.
Like I avoided mass transit. Subways are great, especially for a premiere. You don't have that much gear. I haven't taken a subway in 7 months. I'm sure they're doing a fine job keeping everything clean, but I know my car is clean. So I just, no matter what it was always like my personal vehicle and making sure like an event was outdoors, and I just felt like that was a key to it.
Right. Thanks. And I just know, back to kind of the assignment thing, and I know from working closely with Tony in terms of the schedule, and I'm sure that, as a freelancer you're a staff photographer, so, I can imagine the added stress for Oliver, where, every day was, he maybe has an assignment, but maybe they'd say to the White House, you can't come today. There was just, I think, a like an added layer of uncertainty. But I know with Tony, and we still go through this I mean, yesterday, the day before, today, about the schedule and what's happening, and the story and things change very, very quickly. I know Tony maybe can jump in. I think the other day Tony photographed Mayor de Blasio voting. We got word of that pretty late. That was over in Brooklyn. Tony lives in Queens, so he had to hustle over there. Things move very, very quickly. And then once you're on the ground and on the scene, you don't really know what's happening. Early on, you had National Guard involved. You had state police, city, all kinds of, just different officials adding more layers of security. Tony, what is something that you've probably faced the last few months that we normally didn't see?
Well, I can't add anything to what the guys said. They're absolutely right. The only thing that I'll be very specific. Let's see. Can you guys see that? Can you see the picture? Yeah. So this is what I call COVID fatigue.
A hot zone.
Yeah, I mean, but that's not 6 feet. That's 6 inches, and you're waiting for him, and then he walks out of the door, and you're being piled on by journalists. And I think that it's not scary, but you really have to trust that these people are staying clean. So
Yeah, I think Tony, it seems like, at least in New York, that, a lot of people are wearing masks, but it's not just to wear the mask. You have to wear the mask and stay away, right?
Yeah.
It's not where a mask can be on top of you.
Yeah.
Right. And you feel that with the press corps that there's a little fatigue kind of settling?
I think so. I mean, it's funny because we all see each other, elbow bumps, how you doing and everything. And then you get into the situation, which is everybody just piles on top of each other. I don't know. I mean, I think it's, in these situations, they're rare situations. But I agree with everybody else. I think that, now we just have to stay cautious and deal with more traffic.
And flexible. So, one question we got was, and Johnny touched on us a little bit with chasing the storms, but Oliver or Tony, maybe there's something you can add about different subjects that you started to cover now that you didn't have either, you didn't have the opportunity to do before, or there's certain little features that you're making. Anything, Oliver? I know you had talked about the musicians, but there's some other things maybe.
I just started working in a project. I haven't finished yet because everything went a little more crazy than I thought. But my background in general, is really focused on the immigrant community, and I started doing a little research about. I wanted to know about the situation of the immigrant community here in Washington, D.C., mostly people undocumented or people who don't have any benefits they don't get any benefits from the government, and see how they're doing. I know a lot of them, especially in the Latino community, they were affected by, I don't know, the dad got sick and he died. And so he was the only person who was working in the house. So now what happened with the rest of the family? And so it's something that I've been reach out to a couple of families, and I guess I'm gonna have to wait until after the elections, when I don't know if this is gonna come down, whole the politics situation, but I will love to continue working on that project.
Right. And out to the group, are there any subjects, and I sort of have a feeling I know what Tony or Johnny may say, but are there any subjects that you hope to never have to cover again that you had to cover during the last few months? Tony?
Nope, I'm good. No, I'm not working on anything. No,
but is there anything, Tony, that you would not want to do again?
Well, I mean, no, I mean, I'm so happy to be working photojournalist that I'll take anything right now. I mean, and I'm happy. I'm very happy. So, I mean, the things. I mean, there were elements about certain red carpets that were tedious, and certain celebrities that they're just not so nice to not so nice to cover. Or just for whatever reason. But I'm fine. I don't. I am fine. I'm happy. I'm very happy. What about you, Johnny? What about you? What
Yeah.
I
what
would,
wouldn't
you know, I'd
you,
really not like to ever see, a chain of dead bodies coming out wrapped in plastic ever again. I'd be grateful if I never had to do that. I'll tell you, Jonathan. That's the
Yeah,
last
and
thing
I
I
would
want to see.
I would imagine also probably of all the maybe of all the pictures we looked at, that woman who had to say goodbye to her dog.
Yeah, that was hard.
That was
Yeah.
pretty emotional set of pictures. I imagine that's really tough, right? I mean, and I know that there were stories um, of children visiting their parents in nursing homes where they had to kind of do it through a window or stay outside, and I would imagine that you probably don't want to see that again, that kind of stuff, right?
Yeah, I mean, we in entertainment, it's usually happy stuff. Sports is usually uplifting, and so is entertainment. And Tony and I, and of course Oliver, we've had our share of news events, but this is not. This was an ongoing. It was an ongoing thing where every day was bad news. There was very few smiles in the last 8 months or 7 months.
Yeah.
Just
If
that leads us to a good question that Thomas Smith put into the chat. And did you see the coverage or the subjects change as the pandemic progressed, like from March, April, now through now we're into end of October? I think the feeling, maybe Tony alluded to it a little bit, is that there's maybe a little fatigue, people dropping the guard down a little bit. Did things change over the last 6 months?
Oh, I'll start off. I'll say that when we first started photographing testing sites, for example, I mean, it was, you had to stay back. And slowly, surely, progressively, we got closer and closer and closer and closer and closer. And the only thing that stops us from literally putting the camera in people's faces as they were having their swabs shoved up their noses was the rules about identifying people and making sure that we didn't get any sort of didn't photograph any information about them. So we're respecting their privacy. I see that. I see that the access, and like in the streets in New York City, you can they now have a lot of COVID testing sites. You can just walk right up. I mean, you're a few feet away, and it's not even any more covered tents. I saw one in Queens the other day where it's just completely open. I mean, there was a chair, there was one flap where people could sit, but you could still angle yourself so you could see them full on getting. Yeah, I mean, I think that's changed a lot, and I think it has a lot to do with, again, with the COVID fatigue, and that people are. I'm not saying they're letting their guard down, but I think that it's becoming the norm. It's sort of normal.
Right. People are a little more relaxed while being careful.
Yeah, and we're still. I mean, we try to be as respectful as possible still. So, but I've seen some amazing images where people are just, they're there.
Where do you think, Oliver, maybe you can, where do you think the work is, where do you think your work is going to take you the next few months? I sort of have an idea, but maybe, or, then after the New York guys can jump in, but do you see, the COVID, is it the new normal for a while, or do you see things changing? What do you think?
I don't know what really is going to happen in terms of, because I covered the White House most of my time. It's actually really nice. It's bad for freelancers, and it's bad for organizations and the coverage in general. But it's actually really nice to go to the White House and have just work with a handful of people, and not to have 300, 400 journalists 30 or 40 photographers in a really small room covering the same thing. This is really helpful. I mean, it's actually really nice to cover departures, arrivals, state visits, going to the Oval Office. It's actually it's great. It's great. If I have to, if I would have to pick one, it was like, yeah, I would love to continue like this. But I know a lot of organizations are being like hurt by this for coverage, and also the rest of the world as well, because like we need more journalists to have a different voice from the White House.
And I would imagine, Oliver, just in terms of the access and what you need, it's a little catch-22, like a lot of things where you can't get the permanent access to the White House unless you demonstrate a need to go to the White House. But you have to show a pattern of assignments at the White House before they consider it necessary for you to have a permanent pass. But I would imagine today it's impossible for a new freelancer to the White House beat to cover the White House, right? I mean, you simply cannot go there. Is that right?
Yeah, that's correct. I mean, we're trying to police ourselves as well. Like we're part of I'm part of the White House Correspondents Association.
Mm-hmm.
And so we've been trying to help each other and trying to take care of each other. So if we see someone, because like now the rule, it doesn't apply, so you can actually go to the White House. But when we see someone he doesn't supposed to be there, we ask them to leave or not to go inside of the complex. You just like stay outside. If you have to do a hit or anything else, trying to not go in, not use the restrooms. And
right. I know that the White House Correspondents Association communicates pretty well with its members, making suggestions, rules, and that, as you said, they kind of police themselves, do a pretty good job. I think our friends in New York, it's a little more of the wild Northeast up here, Johnny and Tony, right? With your colleagues out on the street. I know everyone is respectful and helpful, but there's a little less organization with that respect, right? I mean, people are sort of out on their own, doing their own thing. And Johnny, or?
Well, Johnny, I mean, I don't know. Johnny, how many people do you think, how many photographers are out there on a daily basis at any one time?
Tony, I'd also ask, I'm sorry, Johnny, just so you can also, I'm sorry. And this goes to that question. Are there less people today than before?
Yes.
Tony?
What do you think? You think how many people are out there on a daily basis?
Oh,
30,
I think it's
40
much
of us?
less, right, Tony? Yeah, I think so.
It's just that sometimes Johnny and I worked with people who were, it's all sorts. I mean, all sorts of photographers come from all walks of life.
For example, Jonathan, like a lot of the entertainment photographers would spill over into, general news or spot news. And really now at a spot news event, Tony, right, we don't see any of the red carpet photographers.
And
so
we don't, I mean, I'm glad that I don't see them because I don't know what their protocol is. I mean, I know what you know my protocol and I know your protocol, more or less. I mean, we know that we, do our best we're very careful. So in that way, I trust you, but I don't know where these people have been, so to speak, and
so you're seeing less, Tony, Johnny,
absolutely.
like for example, if like like Johnny had mentioned, if there was a big, really breaking news story in New York, big, I don't know, accident or some sort of event, you would see a lot. Right. You would see a lot more people before than you do now.
Yeah. No, the other thing is, you did Fashion Week, didn't you? A little bit, the 3 days that it was up, Johnny. Yeah,
I did a couple of those.
Yeah, but there was like a PAP call, and it was 40, 50 people, and there was a PAP call outside the studios. I'm not going there. I'm not getting into that crowd. I don't know them. So, they're shooting celebrities in the rival. and it was good. I mean, it was good arrivals and was, you know, good pictures. But I felt uncomfortable. I feel more uncomfortable being around them uh, because I just don't see them on a daily basis, and I don't talk to them on a daily
Yeah,
basis.
that's really interesting. I agree with you, but I feel like the first time that we ever put ourselves into close quarters, for me anyhow, was during the protests. And by that time, it was May, and I think everybody, at least I felt a little more comfortable with what they were telling us, how the virus is spread. So, you know, like once the protest started, I knew I had to be in there a little closer than I had been in the months before. And I felt like I knew enough about what they were telling us to avoid it. You know, just, you know, wash your hands, sanitize, keep a distance, you know, and my hold the breath trick. If anybody ever shook my hands before this, they know that I was a hand washer way before this whole thing.
Oliver, quick question over for you. So, and I know that this is a question you probably hear a lot of, and I think you mentioned a little bit in the presentation on Tuesday. But just as far as access to the White House, I know that you started White House coverage really at the beginning of this administration 4 years ago. I remember those early days waiting outside when it's 0 degrees out in the White House, right, getting access and waiting for someone from the press office to come out. But would you say that in general, there's pretty good access at the, COVID aside, there's been pretty good access at the White House, and photographers are encouraged to be there, and there's a lot of photo coverage. Would you say that's accurate?
Yeah, there's more access for sure. More access than in the last administration. I was able to cover the last month of Obama, and then I started with the current administration, and I saw the change. But also talking to my colleagues, they always mentioned that they couldn't do much. Actually, they were at the White House all day, but everything was like closed press, and yeah, now the difference is tremendous. I mean, it's huge. We can cover pretty much everything. It's like every single events that they never actually covered.
Right. And there was, I think the previous administration, it was a lot more controlled. Plus, they had a very big social media presence. The White House itself had a social media presence. So there was a lot of content being pushed out via social media, and at the same time, little less access for professional press photographers trying to capture their own independent content coverage as well. So that was kind of a little bit of a push and pull. And I just know prior to, and we've chatted about this when you've done, for example, cabinet meetings or Oval Office meetings or East Room ceremonies, you're in there for a long time.
Yep. Yeah, sometimes an hour and a half, 2 hours one day.
Right.
In the Oval Office.
Right.
Oliver, I was going to ask Oliver. I mean, I remember covering Obama when he came to New York, and it was just like these, 15, 20 seconds. You're in the room, and then you point your camera at him, take a picture, tap you on the shoulder, and out you go.
The Oval Office, it was the same thing here. You have 20 seconds to take a picture with the president or any. Yeah, now it's different because the President Trump in general, like they love talking and also like asking questions to all the guests that are at the table and so what do you think? What do you think?
Well, Oliver, just a little bit of a technical equipment kind of thing that I know early on, particularly like in the Oval Office, where you would have maybe a lot more photographers than normal, and you'd have a little bit of conflict between the video guys and the still guys, especially when they were not using mirrorless cameras, and you just hear the click of the shutter like for minutes at a time, right? It wasn't, now that you can use some mirrorless cameras, it's a little less, right? The noise is a little less bothersome, I think, to the video guys, right?
Yeah, in the past it was pretty annoying to have everybody, like 20 photographers inside. I know I don't have a mirrorless yet, but I'm one of the few that is still like shooting with normal cameras. But I don't go crazy in general with taking pictures, so
Right.
it's good. I mean, so far.
Because sometimes you'd
That's
hear,
good.
right, on a cabinet meeting or an Oval Office, you could hear the sound of the shutters. It was loud, right? I mean,
Yeah, and some photographers, they have old cameras. It's still like super old cameras, and like White House photographers, they have super old cameras. So the sound, it was like
deafening, right?
we're joking about that all day. But the challenge, the biggest challenge that we have now is the light. Actually, this is totally separate from COVID and everything, but it's just like, it's funny because the president seems not to like light very much. So now in the Oval Office, we're working. They bring down the lights like probably 15%, and they close the curtains. So we have to shoot. We have to push our cameras to really high ISOs, or like shooting really slow, and all the pictures are super grainy. So we're always asking for better light, and because this is going to be part of history somehow, and the president doesn't give us the opportunity to have a better picture. So sometimes, I know with First Lady, we're going to have, for all the First Lady events, we're going to have good light because she cares about uh, that. But the president, he doesn't like it at all. So it's like
But we have good access.
it's always a challenge, but we have good access. So
Johnny and Tony, up in New York, I know that it'll be interesting when, for those who are on the call, red carpets in New York are a little different than red carpets in LA, for example, where you have a lot more room. Red carpets in New York are generally on the sidewalk, inches away from Fifth Avenue or Madison Avenue, with traffic whizzing by. And now those sidewalks are filled with restaurants. Any word on a red carpet coming up? Anything happen? Is there any word about how those things are going to go? Or
Well, from what I understand, like sports isn't going to start. Like the sports isn't going to start up for a long time. So there's a lot of celebrities in that, and so if the celebrities are in town, they're gonna make red carpets. So as long as sports is shut down, I don't think there's going to be a lot of opportunity to photograph celebrities. I think that now it's sort of relegated to streets. Um, I see. I mean, I know some of the photographers, quote unquote paps, but they get calls from celebrities. I'm going to step outside, or I'm going to go outside, and I'm going to be wearing fashion, please, if you could be there. I'm not saying that it's a direct communication, but there is some sense of.
But have you heard at all about any events scheduled yet? Or
No, it's not. It's not on the. It's not. It's on the grapevine yet. Not on the wider grapevine. I haven't heard anything yet.
Right.
I know there are a few events that go on, but it's really, 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 really limited.
And
to one or two photographers.
I think for both you and Johnny, you're both staff photographers. So while you mainly did a lot of events, you pivoted very quickly to more breaking news, spot news, news of the day, news of the hour, what's happening. But for your real true freelancers, your freelance colleagues, it's probably been a bit challenging, right? Because, and maybe Johnny, that's why you're not seeing them out like you used to. Sports photographers too, right? Like at a baseball game, football game, basketball, you have a bunch of photographers there, right? Now access is very limited. It's hard, right, for the true freelancer? Harder.
It's really, really awful for the true freelancer right now. I think in New York, the guys maybe in news are still, hanging on, or maybe even doing great. The sports freelancers, I think, are really suffering. and entertainment photographers, unless they do what Tony said, maybe, get some paparazzi style fashion photos. But I don't see a red carpet coming anytime soon, Jonathan. Really, I just don't.
Yeah, probably not until maybe the springtime.
I hope. That would be great.
I hope by summer. I hope by summer.
Maybe your Met Gala will return in May, Johnny.
I sure hope so.
I'm gonna kill you, Johnny. I'm gonna kill you.
It's just it is the greatest red carpet, and I haven't been all the red carpets in the world or the country, but I can't imagine something being better than that.
Yeah.
As far as the red carpet goes.
Yeah, I mean, it is pretty incredible.
Yeah.
I'll admit. I mean, I do the Johnny, you do the Oscars. We do the Oscars, don't we?
Yeah, I do the Oscars.
I mean, I love the Oscars. I love that. I love the Oscars. I think it's the best. I like it more than the Met Gala.
Well, it's on one level, right, Tony?
Yeah, it's on one level, and you're sure to get almost everybody. Whereas, yeah, I mean, I get it. No, you're right, Johnny. You're absolutely right. It's intense. It's electric. It's, you lose your voice in 3 hours, and it's fun. It is fun. It's a lot of fun. But
Tony, Tony, do your 5 languages help you on the red carpet?
Yes, they do. Many times.
Yes.
I've seen that firsthand.
Yeah, we just figure out who speaks French or who speaks
Indonesian.
I gotta admit, there are a lot of people who speak Indonesian. I've surprised Michelle Yeoh a few times. She's Malaysian. Yeah. So,
Tony is a big celebrity at the International Emmy Awards. He's barking out another language every 5 minutes.
Yep.
And getting the photo.
But some of the, I mean, I guess to a certain extent, it's a little bit, at least prior to COVID, at the White House when people are yelling at the president for a quick comment over here, it's pretty crazy. But Tony and Johnny, maybe, what are some of the tricks to get, and some of those red carpets are just crazy, the amount of photographers, the amount of people walking on the red carpet, and you have like seconds to get their attention, right? You want the eye contact. That's really that's the shot, right? You want that eye contact. So what are some of the tricks? Some people go low, some people scream, some people have high voices, low voices. Tony breaks out the Indonesian once in a while.
Yeah.
What do you do?
French.
Tony, you want to go first here, or how do you go ahead?
What did Dennis used to say all that? Dennis, I remember we worked with this great guy named Dennis Van Dyne. I mean, just the funnest photographer. Please back me up on this, Johnny. Just the best. I mean, it's just so funny.
He used to say things like "last looks."
I mean, he told Robert De Niro once that he dropped his wallet. And then the guy looked back and said, "See, I got you." Yeah, we, in that sense, and then after a while, you get to know these people. I mean, you see them all the time, or you see them on a regular basis. So you have, they recognize you, you recognize them, and there's a little rapport there. Richard Gere famously almost kisses everybody on the red carpet.
He famously hates everybody.
Yeah.
I can tell you one thing, Justin. While they're hollering and screaming,
yeah,
I'm waiting for them to do something that the hollering and screaming guys are missing.
Yes.
I almost never say anything out there. I'm like, compare myself to a mouse. There are so many moments happening when these guys are hollering and screaming. I can't even tell you.
No, it's pretty.
So
I've been able to join Tony on a few of them, and it's pretty intense.
Yeah, it can be fun.
I never obsessed with eye contact. I really, it just didn't mean that much to me. And then I've gone and I've tried to prove that eye contact isn't that important. And I've looked through all the magazines, and it's not always eye contact. I don't know what these guys are screaming about.
Johnny, you're an artist.
Truthfully, I don't know what that is. Sometimes I holler and scream, but it's just because I feel like making noise.
Listen, you're the master.
Do you want eye contact? I mean, I guess a lot of your pictures actually are not eye contact with the president. Sometimes he's looking off, he's looking in different directions. But do you try to also get the president's attention when you're?
No. That's not. It's totally different than red carpets, which is good with me. But of course, like if you're first in the Oval Office, and also I'm super tall, so like sometimes there's eye contact, and when we're done, and it's like sometimes we say like, thank you, sir, when we leave for the access. He's just trying to keep the same access. And he's saying goodbye to everybody. Like he knows everybody in the room because we've been there for years, pretty much. So in the mornings, he's like, good morning, how are you? It's like, just talking to us.
Yeah, and also
Yeah,
it's a little bit more controlled. Like how you when you walk into the room, who goes first? There's an order, correct? And where you take your position. And
there's an order. So we're 7 agencies. Sometimes, so I work with the New York Times and the Washington Post, and as well for SIPA when I have to do the pool days. So the positions are, if I'm with the New York Times, I'm the 4th. If I am working for SIPA as ISP, I'm next. And then the Washington Post is behind the ISP. So we're trying to line up outside. I mean, we have to do it because it's so small. So we can't be right next to each other.
Right.
And trying to get the video people first. And then we just stand in front of them on the bottom.
Right. In Washington, there's all about customs and order and rules and access and right.
Yeah. Sometimes we're trying to push a little more, which is really cool because at the beginning I didn't know the Secret Service, the agents inside of the Oval Office. So if you were trying to get closer, they just move you really hard. They were just like, nope. But now that we know them, sometimes it was like, can we just for looking, it's like, can I just okay, you can go there. And so we're trying to move as well, trying to move as much as we can. Now we have less people in the Oval Office, so we can actually move around, which is pretty nice.
So that's sort of if there's some good things coming out of this pandemic, it's been that there are, if you do have lucky enough to have access to the White House, it's a little bit easier to work now just because there's just less people there, right? And
yeah, that's definitely the most stressful part of working at the White House is just trying to all the process before actually taking a picture, trying to get there earlier, trying to put a ladder, spending 2 hours on top of a ladder with 3 cameras and a giant lens, no much light, fighting with people for space is something that I really don't miss at all. But as well, I can't stop thinking about the other organizations that they used to go to the White House a lot, and they lost their access.
It'll be interesting, and I mentioned this briefly. When this new administration started, and those early days in January, Oliver, would you be calling me, Jonathan? Can you call them again? Can you call them again? I'm freezing. It's 0 degrees out, and we're trying to be polite and respectful, but trying to push a little bit too to see if we could speed things up. And it was complicated right early on, and everything was new, and the team was new in the White House. It'll be interesting to see what happens, after the election, depending if there's a change in the administration. It'll be interesting, again, if there's a new press team in, and with COVID. I mean, it was hard 4 years ago without COVID.
Yeah, but even now it changes all the time. They change the press team all the time, people coming in and out, and it's hard. It's a whole process. But at the beginning, it was actually funny because when I started covering the White House, I'm originally from Chile, and at that time I wasn't a U.S. citizen, so I also have because I have to wait outside. I also have to wait for an escort to take me in, because if you are foreign, you have to wait for an escort. If you're a U.S. citizen, you can come in without an escort. So I did that for a couple of months until I got my citizenship. And I was like, oh my God, this is life's changing.
No, I remember.
the hard pass.
And there were only a certain amount of escorts in the press office available to escort visitors, right? So
Yes. Yep.
you came to the security office and you needed an escort, and you just missed the escort. You could be waiting a while, right? And it was
yeah, and also the Secret Service they're tough, and I mean now it's completely different because I know pretty much everybody, so it's like when I come in, like I just know all the names, and like we talk to each other, and how you been, and but yeah, at the beginning it was definitely challenging.
Yeah. During the early campaigns, like with Bernie Sanders would come to New York City and all that, and it's funny. A lot of the cops that we worked with who did security for red carpets were also doing security because they were law enforcement. They were doing security for the candidates. And I remember going to photograph Bernie Sanders. I think it was at Astoria Park. What was it, Johnny? Where it was all the way down by the river. So he did this.
That one. I don't think I was there.
And I went and I got there late, really late. Like I thought our other guy was going to cover it, and he said no, he couldn't make it. And so I ran down there, just bolted. And I got there and it started and you couldn't get in and anything. And then I looked around and then all of a sudden I saw one of the security guys who would do red carpets. And thanks, Jonathan, because we would do, we were house for some events that we would be house. And those security guys were the same guys, and they'd say, yeah, he's cool. Come on in. So for Sanders, or for whoever they were protecting at the time, they'd recognize us. And now the de Blasio people, they know us by face, they know us by name. So that's pretty cool.
We have about 10 minutes left. So before we run out of time, and I'd mentioned this earlier, what advice could you give to your colleagues, your freelance colleagues, your staff, going forward in this coming year? What is something that you learned during the 6 or 7 months that you could give to one of your colleagues going forward?
Don't go to the White House. No.
Don't step on my toes.
Is it just for freelance colleagues? Because
what as a working photojournalist, what would you say? What would be the advice you'd give to your colleagues?
I'm not in a position to give my colleagues any advice. I could probably give like an amateur some advice maybe, but I feel like the people that we work with all pretty much have it really.
What would you give to an aspiring photojournalist?
Well,
aspiring photojournalist. I would say if they're into social media, I would think that shoot a lot of sunsets and sunrises, because I think that the prettier photographs are received better if you're one that wants attention and stuff like that. No matter what news photo I ever put up, I never would get the response that I got on photos that I took in the last 7 months of just New York being beautiful. So really that's the way it's going anyhow. If it's all going to social media, might as well put yourself in the direction of beauty, and I feel like that's the fastest way to get noticed.
Cat photos and sunsets.
I think
I don't know about the first one.
I will say maybe not an advice, but this is how I think about my work. I think as a it could be an artist, but as a photojournalist as well, I think we have a responsibility and with our communities, and that's how I feel every single day. And I think it's a good time for us to use our tools to do something for our communities. It could be any community. It could be like across the street, like a couple of blocks, or it could be like a whole country. But I think it's a good time to, I know it's hard, it's super hard because of COVID, but I think it's a good time to start telling stories about what we think is important for us, like our community.
I took your advice to heart, Jonathan. You said, I think when this is all started, you said, this is going to be history. Any which way you slice it, it's going to be history. And I think that if you want to be, well, like Johnny said, stick to the sunsets and the cats. But if you really want to be a photojournalist, I mean,
You actually didn't say cats. I said cats. But.
Oh, but I got yesterday. I photographed somebody at a polling station, and he found the picture online, and he texted me, he said, "I want to be your assistant." I said, "Well, photojournalism is a solo job." And the advice that I give people who ask me is say, just, find something that you're very passionate about, a subject, and photograph. Keep shooting. Take it apart. Really take this thing apart and find your voice.
Yeah, because I think with your work, Johnny's work, and Oliver over the period of 4 years, like I think about Oliver's coverage the last 4 years of this administration, certainly historic. And I think if you look like in terms of your work or Johnny's, hopefully we'll see an end to this pandemic. I think we'll be living with it for a while, but hopefully the crisis part will be over soon, hopefully next year maybe. And if you take your coverage, those individual pictures from early on, from the food and the funerals and the bodies and the empty streets and the mask and testing, and if you put that all together, that's really a historic document, right? That's those little individual pictures put together is a wonderful coverage, historic coverage of a major event. And I think the same goes for Oliver if he takes from those early days at the White House where he had to have the escort till now. If you put those all together, if I asked him to make a choice of I don't know, the last 4 years of this current administration put together, that's a great, that's historic work.
Yeah, I agree.
As photojournalists, you have to, you're doing the daily work, you're doing the daily assignment, but if you think about it, just in terms of your overall work put together and somehow connect the pieces, that's I don't know, that's a great thing, I think, at the end, right? Like you, Oliver, there's this one press conference or this one visit or one Oval Office, and there's some wonderful pictures individually, but taken together over the last 4 years, that's a great, it's a great piece of work. And I think for Johnny, Angela, Tony here in New York, with this crisis, like all those individual things, they may just be small little pictures, but put together, you've done some great coverage of historic,
Yeah. I mean, I keep track of it. I mean, I document it. I do these little books, and
not so little.
Well, yeah, not so little, but they serve two purposes. I mean, Johnny knows about it. You haven't seen it yet, Oliver, but it's basically to gauge my growth. I mean, I know that sounds silly, but I want to grow as a photographer. I mean, I'm still learning every day. I want to take a better picture. I mean, sometimes I look at Johnny's work and I go, how did he get that? How did he know to stand there?
4:30 in the morning with a remote camera and a trigger.
Yeah, but that,
his best picture was taken while he was asleep.
Yeah, well, my wife wakes up at 4:30 in the morning. I'm gonna stick her on the balcony with a remote and see what happens. No, but I want to learn. I still want to. I want to grow. I want my pictures to get better. So putting these little books together of my favorite pictures are just really a great way to see where you came from. And I look at the stuff that I did early on. We'd go to, what is it, New Rochelle, and I'm like, look, there's a sign on the window. He's closed. Click. Oh, look, he closed his restaurant. What is he afraid of? Click. And now now it's wow.
Right, that's what I mean. That little story. Yeah. Back in mid-March may not have been that big of a deal, but that's a chapter in this much bigger story.
I have a question for Johnny. John, I have one question for Johnny. Do you find so now I think we're kind of I don't know, that's the wrong word. I think we're getting to a crux now in society. Are you finding that people are angrier, or you find they're more standoffish, or no problems for you?
Tony, everybody that I shoot, I almost make no contact with whatsoever. So I really don't, I mean, if I can read their faces, I think everybody's like pretty tired. It's almost never that I ask for their name. I'm usually shooting them from further away just to make me feel more comfortable. And I love your books that you put together every year. I really think they're magic. And I just want to say that for this to be documenting history, I think we have to put this all into 2020 somehow. And at 2021, hopefully it's a totally, you know, like everything is coming back to normal. Because if this becomes the new normal, then, you know, I don't know, this is just the first year of a nightmare. So I would love to see 2020 be just this, the pre-photos, the disaster, the coming back to normal, the protests. And I hope 2021 looks a lot more like 1999. To me, it'll make me feel like I documented something in history. If this drags on for 2-3 years, I don't feel like 2020 is as important a year in history. I think it's just the beginning of a batch of horrible years.
Well, hopefully, Johnny, I mean, yeah, hopefully the final chapters are going to be written on this story and we can move on to the next one.
Jonathan, I'm going to put you on the spot. As an agent, as the leader of a photo agency, what are the challenges that
we have 2 minutes left, so I'll take 30 seconds to say that, you know, we've been fortunate, SIPA, and, you know, this has been incredible news year. I don't think anyone here is going to disagree that, you know, the consumption of news and the creation of news it's like we've never seen it before. I think people are getting a little tired of it. We did do a lot of coverage, you know, working with you guys. We did a lot of coverage of live events, sports, and entertainment. We don't have any of that now. So that eventually we're going to feel the pressure on that. You know, we missed that. We missed those big events like Met Gala, like, you know, we'll see what happens with the Oscars next year, Golden Globes, things like that. That's a big part of the business, live sports entertainment, and we don't have that anymore. So that's something we're going to have to deal with. Right now, you know, with news, you know, it's, you know, unfortunately in crisis like this, we are busy. We're lucky in that our business lends itself to working remotely. You know, we're all digital, and I think we pivoted very, very quickly to, you know, working remotely. So, you know, things are not bad, Tony, but you know, I hope we can get back to some live events.
I look forward to it.
Yeah. So listen, unfortunately, we are running out of time, or we've run out of time. I'd like to thank once again our panelists, Oliver Contreras in Washington, Johnny Angelillo, and Anthony Behar in New York, Angela Weiss, who was Tuesday. She's on assignment today in Pennsylvania, and the DLMA for hosting us, and all our sponsors. And I hope everyone learned a little bit and enjoyed our presentation. And with that, I think we're going to sign off. All right. Thanks, everyone.
Bye, everybody.
Thank you.
Bye.